Hi, this is Curt and welcome to another edition of Fire Law Roundup.
And this is a really insane one to me. I'm not sure how this happened, but we have in the Putnam Valley, which is kind of eastern New York for those trying to locate it. We call it the Hudson Valley area. This department builds a new firehouse, and normally, as many people know, you put fill in once you got footers and foundation work and everything. And the contractor comes and brings, let's call it contaminated fill, right? Hard fill, which is contaminated and has to go to a special landfill site. And it's like parts of like furnaces and doors and insulation and
they referred to it. You know what they referred to it in the complaint as? They called it urban fill.
Yeah,
it's like what's left over after we burned down a couple of buildings in the city,
right?
Urban fill.
I don't understand. It's obviously a huge DEC violation, and they just start dumping it as part of the foundation. By the way, it's not even structurally sound, right? You put a furnace, a tank, which is hollow, and it's going to crush. In any event, it's contaminated. You can't do it. It's a huge violation. They sue under CERCLA, as we refer to it, but it's a federal law that allows you to sue for these types of things. The problem, my fear for the fire department's totally right. I have questions like, how did no one see a bunch of this stuff sticking out? This isn't like contaminated soil where you'd have to figure it out. This is big pieces of fill that any person would notice shouldn't be there, right? You don't dump garbage.
Yeah, I think they did. And the kind of complaint walks you through it. They hired a specialist. They hired a hazmat specialist to come in. Of course, I'm sure the contractor is denying it. So now you have
the stuff magically appeared there.
Right, fire department saying this is contaminated. The contractor saying, "Oh no, there's no problem." And so they hired a consultant to come in, did the testing, and then I think the fire department did it right. They worked with DEC, the Department of Environmental Conservation. That's a state agency in New York, but they work with them and sort of hand in hand and said, we got to clean this up. And the price tag, I couldn't believe, 1.75 million. And it still is increasing from there because they still have some cleanup issues.
And the landowner's liable for this because they effectively, I don't know why they pled to it. In your recitation, you say, well, they pled, but they admitted, I guess,
they entered into a consent agreement with DEC. So I'm not sure that there was a separate litigation. But by the way, that CERCLA, let me get the right Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Recovery Act. That is what allows fire departments to sue. Like when we go on a response, that's what allows us to recover the costs associated with hazmat response. So in this case, it's one of those things that held the fire department responsible as the property owner.
Yeah, and it's crazy because, right, if you think, well, how are we the responsible party? Effectively, because they're operating a landfill, DEC would say, and did say, and that's the agreement. So my fear is this probably isn't covered by anybody's insurance.
No, I wouldn't imagine, unless you have a really good insurance policy that covers that. But most well-written insurance policies from the insurance company's perspective is going to exclude something like this. Right.
This is not like an accidental spill or something. I mean, this is, effectively, well, they said they operated a landfill by taking this stuff, which I'm sure it wasn't their intent. But my real concern is for the fire department and its municipality is, are you going to really get this from the contractor? There's not a lot of contractors who have $1.75 million. Now, I'm sure there's a criminal component to this. And as part of the criminal component, right, there will be, because DEC violations are criminal, some of them. And so they inevitably will have the criminal screwdriver in you to say, well, you either pay the fines or we're going to, go after you and put you in jail.
Yeah.
So anyway, crazy suit, crazy issue.
And just to put it in perspective, I review 40, 50, 60 suits a week. That's pretty much the limit of what I can do. But I would say each week, maybe every week or every other week, there's a property type of lawsuit involving the fire department. There was one last week on an easement. There's one a couple of weeks ago on a property, another type of property. Somebody was supposed to convey property and it wasn't conveyed. They're not all that interesting. That's why I don't cover them. But it is important for folks to realize that, you know, we're just like any other business, just like a homeowner. In addition to what we do in terms of responding and dealing with our employees, which account for most of our suits, we do occasionally have these kinds of suits. They do crop up.